awesome is the fact that we're able to be competitive, but we're also able to be such good friends. Like if someone beats me in Pyraminx, like I'll be like upset that okay, I didn't win or like I didn't come first place, but I'm not going to be mad at them because of that. We're all still friends together, so it's like it's not like a harsh rivalry, or it's not like very bad to where you don't talk to people because I want to beat them. So it's like yeah.
Hi everyone, I am Prakshal and welcome to the season 2 of Twisting with Cubers. And because of COVID-19, we are recording online interviews. And today we have Naren Ramesh with us. Naren, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. I mean, COVID has obviously made it hard to like go outside and things like that, but it's almost been a year being locked inside. So at this point, kind of getting a bit used to it. And also things are starting to open up a bit. Like my school is starting in person next month. So things are getting a bit more, I guess, back to normal, even if COVID is still very much there.
And like how long do you practice like in the COVID?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question because for a lot of people, and I think including me, competitions was a big like motivation to practice and all that. So obviously we still have the online competitions, but without all the interaction, the motivation to practice can come down a bit. But it's still been like a big priority of mine to at least do a little bit of practice every day, even with like schoolwork, because schoolwork, especially for me this year, has become a lot more than it usually is.
And which standard you are in school?
I'm in 10th, so it's like a bit of an important year this time. So normally I get to go to lots of competitions. Obviously, COVID this year means no like big competitions, but still, even without that, if there was no COVID, I still wouldn't have gone to as many competitions as I normally do because of 10th grade.
And like what are you planning in terms of managing your studies and your cubing career?
Yeah, that's a bit of a I'm not sure how exactly I'm going to be doing it because after I obviously plan to keep cubing even for like the foreseeable future. I don't have any plans of stopping because I'm not like losing interest in it or anything. I don't know like how I'll be studying and all that for college, whether I'll be staying in India, going abroad, whatever that will be. I plan to keep cubing wherever I am. So I guess that involves getting into all the communities. So if I go to another country, maybe like getting into that country's community and making friends with people there. But yeah, I think I had to balance the studying and the cubing while at the same time, making friends and things like that. So
Definitely. And talk to me about like how did you got into cubing in the first place?
yeah, it was a bit of an interesting story. I actually got into cubing in like January 2015. Because I got banned from using computers because I was like using too much computers and I wasn't able to like submit all my assignments, but it was in like 5th grade or 4th grade or something, so assignments don't even matter that much at that time. But yeah, so my dad had like these Rubik's cubes. He's like into a lot of these kind of games that involve, I guess, like mind games, like chess. We play a lot of chess together, and then cubing and things like that. So he had a Rubik's cube and I decided to get into learning that. So he like got me this that Rubix.com PDF, and I used that and I tried to learn how to solve it. And eventually, actually, he ended up giving me like the privilege to use like one YouTube video to learn how to solve it. So I ended up getting it in like the end of January, and then after that, since then, I went to my first competition in May of 2015, and then from there it just progressed.
And how has been your journey so far? Like
Yeah, it's been very good actually. The thing is, you don't realize how long you've been cubing. It's been like 6 years, 2015 to 2021, and that's crazy to think about because I'm not even that old in like a lot of cubers. A lot of cubers are like in college or even started working, but I'm still in school, and it's still been so long for me. Like 6 years is like a very long time, especially for me. So it's kind of crazy to think about it, but yeah, it's just been a good progression. Obviously, cubing is like very competitive for me. I try to be very competitive and I try to always get better, but at the same time, a big part of the cubing for me has been like the friends I make and like the social interactions in competitions, and that's why it's so fun, is because like cubing initially, at least when I was like maybe 9-10 years old, you just kind of go to competitions, you participate in like 1 or 2 events, and then you just leave with your parents because you don't make it to like future rounds, right? But then eventually you start to like go to competitions alone. Maybe you start to get to future rounds, and after that, that's when you really start to make friends. And for me, that's what happened around like 2017. This is when I started to make real like the friends that I have now for cubing. So like that'll be in like every different area, because I'd like to go to competitions all over the place, especially in India. I've not been to many outside of India competitions or international competitions. So I think like I have all these friend groups in like Chennai, in Bangalore, in Hyderabad, and even up north a few places I have some friends. So yeah.
And you mentioned your like parents and your dad introduced you to the first cube. So what is their opinion, like you being so good at and like breaking NR and and investing so much time and energy into this? So what is their opinion about your this cubing hobby?
Yeah, so I think they're both very supportive of it. I think my dad, right, because my dad, like at a similar age to me, was also very into like chess and going to tournaments and all that stuff. So I think he understands that I have like this passion and hobby, and he supports me. Even my mom, even though she doesn't have as much experience in like these kind of games, she always supports me and she allows me to go to competitions. She never like told me that I couldn't go because of some specific thing in school or like at home or anything. So that was like a very good thing, because I was never like told that oh, some exam is coming, you can't go. In fact, it's actually funny because every year nationals is around like right before my final exams every year, but I still get to go because like it's just such an important moment at least. And last year I was not last year, because last year was cancelled, but last year in 2019 I was actually able to podium, so that was a good moment.
So that was like worth the sacrifice and
Yeah.
worth the risk, I'll say.
Yeah.
And your main event is Pyraminx, right?
Yeah.
So why Pyraminx?
It's actually a bit of an interesting story, because up till about, I'd say maybe 2019 it was not my main event basically. So when I started cubing in 2015, like I just did 3x3, like most people probably just start out with 3x3. Then I got into 2x2 a lot. So in like 2016 2018 I was practicing a lot of 2x2, and I came very close to like getting some good solves, and I got lots of podiums in 2x2 in particular. I think 2x2 still might be the event where I have the most podiums even now. But then what happened was in 2019 I broke the NR, and at that point Pyraminx wasn't even my main event, because like I just got the scramble, and it was funny because a lot of people thought it was like the extra scramble or one of the scrambles that they gave me, because one of my other solves was there was like a mistake somewhere, but it was actually like the second scramble. So everyone got that, but I was the only one who saw that like the solution, so I was able to do it, and I got the NR. And after that I started like realizing that Pyraminx could actually be a main event for me. So then that's when I really started practicing it a lot more, and then since then I've been able to get a lot better at that. But then interestingly, like 3 months after that NR, I ended up getting the 2x2 podium in Indian Nationals. So those Pyraminx is still my main event right now, but I still really enjoy doing 2x2, and I still practice that a lot as well. So yeah.
Okay, I think that is like one of the most fascinating story I have heard so far. Like why the some event is your main, because I broke that NR, so I realized I'm really good at it. Oh man! And so what changed after that? Once you realized that Pyraminx can be a main event and you have a real potential or real possibility. So what changed in your terms of what you prepared it for and how much time you're investing in a particular event? So after that NR, what changed?
Yeah, so for me, I think one thing is that as a cuber, I always tend to be a bit inconsistent, right? So I think when I got that NR in Pyraminx, sorry, I actually had like a 3.6 Pyraminx average in competition, but really I was only averaging about 4ish, because what happens is for me, I end up sometimes getting these really good averages, but then overall I average slightly worse than that, but sometimes I can get really bad averages as well. So because of that, one thing with Pyraminx was that even though my official times were okay, like I wasn't very consistent. So once I got that NR, I realized, I have to start getting more consistent in this event. So I started practicing a lot more. And then after like some small mistakes here and there, I managed to get consistently like below 4 seconds. And then I came very close to getting below 3, but then, COVID happened and then I wasn't able to get that in competition. But yeah.
So what will you recommend to someone who wants to really like get better in the Pyraminx event?
I'd say because Pyraminx is a very short event, you should be looking at ways to improve every part of the solve, because it's not like, for example, with bigger cubes, there are ways where even if you probably make a mistake in one step, it's possible to recover it and still get reasonably good times. Especially because with the bigger cubes, there's often large gaps in the podium times, whereas in Pyraminx it'd be like 0.1 seconds, 0.2 seconds. So you should really be working to fix every part of your solve. So with me, one thing was that I always had very slow like pickups, because when you press that stack mat timer and then you go to pick up the cube, a lot of times I would end up dropping it or like missing it or things like that. That was one thing I had to work on. And the other thing is, I'd say, is learn lots of algorithms if you're going to use an algorithmic method. So like I use the L4E method in Pyraminx, and for that you should obviously learn lots of algorithms. Similarly, if you use like a top first method or a V first method, you should learn the respective algorithms, or at least get familiar with them if you're going to use an intuitive method, because it's possible with intuitive methods to sometimes have pretty inefficient solutions. So I'd say learn your algorithms and practice every part of your step, especially like the steps where it's not algorithm based, because like even if you know all the algorithms, it's possible to where some of, like for example, I know all the L4E algorithms, but sometimes my solutions for to find the V in Pyraminx can be pretty inefficient, so that can slow down your solve. So you should always be working to essentially improve all the parts of your solve.
And are there any like your go-to resources in like improving or like learning new algorithms? Is there a YouTube channel or a website that you go to?
Okay, so actually this is kind of funny because I've made some videos on this, how to improve in Pyraminx. So I guess that's there. But apart from that, I think there's a YouTuber called DG Cubes. He makes lots of Pyraminx kind of tutorials and things like that. I've used a lot of that, and I think there are also some algorithms on these websites like AlgDB and a few others that have some useful Pyraminx algorithms and things like that. But for the most part, I don't think I have like one particular source, because cubing, especially in YouTube, there are so many different tutorials and videos that you can just search it up and then click the first one or click the second one and still get like some information from each of them that allows you to improve.
And you mentioned your YouTube channel. Is it still active? Are you still like publishing videos on that channel?
Yeah, that's actually right now not really, because exams are literally starting very soon. So it's hard to balance that right now. But I think last year in like 2020, in mid, early and towards the late 2020, I was posting quite a bit. And that is very enjoyable for me, making tutorial videos, review videos, even some comedy videos I would make. So that's all kind of enjoyable, and it, I guess, allows me to show my enjoyment for cubing, because it's like probably my biggest hobby for the past 6 years. So it's, I guess, a good way to probably teach newer cubers and also interact with older cubers and improve my viewer base and my friends.
And also, have you ever thought of like going into like teaching to like younger cubers, or like maybe to beginners, or maybe to like intermediate to get to advanced level, like one-on-one coaching, or maybe, I don't know, like particular teaching?
So I think well, not really as of yet, because obviously I myself am pretty young, right? So still have a lot to learn with cubing. And also the other thing is that I'm not like at the best place where I want to be. So I also want to improve. I also maybe want to get like an average NR or something that really solidifies my place as like one of the best in India. So that's what I'm working towards. But apart from that, teaching wise, it's definitely a possibility. But really the other thing is that there needs to be the people to do it, and I also need to be good at teaching, because one thing I've learned is that it's possible to be a good cuber, but that doesn't often make you a good teacher immediately, because you have to, I guess, have the skills to communicate properly with the other person and make sure that they understand it. So that's, I guess, I have to look into that if I want to start teaching.
Definitely. And I have a lot of questions from social media, and I'll ask like one by one. So without full OLL, should we focus on F2L?
Yes, I think that's important. Focusing on 3x3, especially on every solve. F2L is very important. Actually, I have a interesting story for this. I have lots of stories. What happened is I made like a big error with 3x3, to where I was averaging like 15 seconds with still without F2L. I was only using like beginner's method stuff, because I was just too lazy to learn F2L. So I just kept on postponing it, and then I ended up actually averaging like 15 seconds just with the beginner's method for first two layers. So then finally and like 2018 beginning I finally learned F2L, and then that made me a bit slower to like 16-17 seconds, but then I eventually got better. So I actually knew a bit of OLL and full PLL by that time. So I think that's maybe a mistake that a lot of people do, is to just, because algorithms are just, it's very like straightforward, you just have to learn the algorithm and then you can execute it and solves. F2L might be a bit more confusing, but definitely learn it, don't like put it off or anything.
Awesome. Uh, how to become sub 4 in the Pyraminx? I think we have covered some bits and bits and pieces. And okay, when do you think you can break the Pyraminx NR, and how does it feel to get the NR?
Okay, so I think I'll do the second part first, because how it feels to get the NR is like, it's very confusing. Because at first, see, the thing is, because Pyraminx was not my main event at that time, I didn't know what the NR time was. So I had to ask someone on the right, like, what's the NR for Pyraminx? And then they told me it was like 1.41 or 1.42. So then I was like, oh, I actually got the NR. So it's like, it's pretty crazy. Obviously, like, I don't think anyone has ever clapped to my solves before. So that was like a new experience, and it was really cool. Maybe the second time it'll be a bit more, like, it'll be a bit less, I guess, exciting, but it'll still obviously be very like exhilarating, but it'll also make you very nervous. So like I got that NR on the second solve of my average, and then the last 3 solves I fully messed up because of that. So yeah, that's the feeling you get when having the NR. And can I break another NR? I think I hope to, in Pyraminx especially. Maybe in 2x2, but I doubt there, because people are getting so fast. But I guess I'll have to work to that as well, obviously. But I think one thing with the Pyraminx NR is that I hope to break an average one, because the single is kind of up to chance, right? Pyraminx is like 7. My NR scramble was 7 moves in total. And even though I executed it pretty quickly, it's kind of not up to me, that scramble. But if I can get that consistent 5 solves and get like an NR average in Pyraminx, that will really be a good one. So I hope to break that one, and yeah, I'm going to be practicing to break that one once official competitions start again.
And I think averages, as you talked about, like solidify your position as like one of the best cubers. I think holding an NR average will be like will put you in a much better place in terms of like positioning, in terms of like being the best cuber in the country. Yeah. How much time it took you to become sub 10 in 3x3?
Basically it took me, I'd say probably like 5 years, which is pretty slow, I think, on average, because I didn't focus a lot on 3x3. I only started enjoying it more because like with a lot of this I was doing like lots of 2x2 Pyraminx, right? Those are the 2 main events, and those are like events that take like a few seconds each. So really my main competitive time in competitions was like more, like probably a minute, like each round. Like my total solving time was probably only like a minute, so I wasn't getting much time to compete. So after that I realized like I wanted to get into more like longer events, and 3x3 isn't that long, but I still wanted to like get more into it and really start solving more. So I started learning more algs, and it took me about 5 years. Obviously there was that period where I just kept postponing learning F2L and things like that. So those are all kind of mistakes that I guess you guys should not like learn from. You guys should make sure that you learn like F2L, things like that. You should learn intuitive methods of I guess how to position pieces such that you can get better cases and things like that. So I think even though mine took about 5 years, you guys can definitely do it a lot faster than that.
Awesome. And we have a question from JJ from Cubelelo. Your WhatsApp status says that you are Italy. What is your WhatsApp status?
Yeah, I'm not actually sure what it is, but it's something along the lines of like professional sambar rice eater. And the origin of that is like, so I was always like this kind of skinny kid when I was growing up. I didn't like eating at all. But then when I turned like 13 or like 12 or 13, all of a sudden I really loved to eat food. So like I started eating like crazy, but I was still kind of skinny. So then people like always used to think that I like used to like starve myself or I didn't eat food properly. But I actually eat like lots of food, and I really like sambar rice. So that was kind of my thing for that, is that I just like to eat a lot, even though people don't realize it.
Okay, professional cuber and professional sambar rice eater, right? Awesome. Are you planning to attend CSUL 10.0?
Yes, but I think I'll be participating in fewer events just because I have my exams coming up soon. So I'll probably be spending more time in studying, as well as I also want to participate well in this. So I'll just be practicing a little less for some fewer events.
And what do you think of online competitions?
I think online competitions are good because they keep like cubers motivated to compete properly, because it can be kind of a bit demotivating if you're not going to competition. So at least having that online competitions is a good motivation to practice so that you can place well in these. But I think one thing is that it still is missing that social interaction of the cubing competitions in person, which you can't really achieve elsewhere. Like, it's not even just in the competition, like going to lunch with people, just spending time with people afterwards, dinners, and like going to people's houses afterwards. It's all kind of part of that competition experience that you really can't get at home. So I guess even though the motivation, you can keep the motivation by doing these online competitions, they're not the same like the in-person competitions.
But I think, considering the situation, they are still good enough,
Yeah,
because
they're
at least we
definitely
have
still
that.
good enough.
Yeah,
At least we have that, right? If it was,
Yeah.
if there were no online competitions, it would be like just all of a sudden just no queuing, and like so many people will probably quit queuing. In fact, I think many people probably have quit queuing because of just how little interaction there is all of a sudden. So I think the online competitions are definitely at least a motivator for me. Like, I think if there were no online competitions, I wouldn't have quit queuing, but I wouldn't be queuing a lot less than I am now. I'd probably be like maybe only solving Pyraminx or only solving a few events just like that, like not really seriously practicing for future competitions.
Definitely. And what do you think about the community and the people associated with the cubing?
I think the cubing community is awesome. I think it's like basically all my friends right now are from the cubing community, because like in school there are like I have a few friends there, but most of my friends are in the cubing community just because of how like awesome everyone is. Like, there are so many places I've been to. Like, Hyderabad has an awesome queuing community. Like I mentioned, Bangalore has a good one. Chennai has a good one. In Mumbai there also I have some friends there. Like, it's just everywhere. People are so like nice. People are so inclusive of everything, and we're always able to get along very well because it's that common interest, right? We all enjoy queuing. And the other thing about the queuing scene that's just so awesome is the fact that we're able to be competitive, but we're also able to be such good friends. Like, if someone beats me in Pyraminx, like I'll be like upset that okay, I didn't win, or like I didn't come first place, but I'm not going to be mad at them because of that. We're all still friends together. So it's
Yeah.
like it's not like a harsh rivalry, or it's not like very bad to where you don't talk to people because oh, I want to beat them. So it's like, yeah.
Okay. And what do you think is the role of Cubelelo in that community?
I think Cubelelo has an important role because cubing requires the cubes, and cubing requires the puzzles to compete and to solve at home or in competitions. The other thing is that Cubelelo also sets up competitions from time to time, so they sponsor lots of events which has prize money or prize cubes, which can also increase the incentive to compete or to win. So that all kind of drives people to get better at cubing and to also just compete more, which is important for the growth of the cubing community, because especially probably during COVID, cubing has maybe taken a bit of a hit. Probably less people have been joining cubing and things like that. Less people have been getting interested in it, because like if you search up WCA right now, probably there are very few competitions, especially in India. I think like one is coming up in Mumbai, but that's it. So like probably last year, if you searched it up, or last year, a few more competitions would have come up, and there's more of a chance of going to them and meeting friends, and then it goes from there. But now if you search up like the WCA, nothing will come, so you'll just maybe toss it aside and not get into it. So competitions are very important, and so is, I guess, Cubelelo in that growth.
Awesome. Now I have a set of rapid fire questions for you.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Your best competition?
Indian Nationals 2019.
Favorite cuber?
Coming to mind right now. I don't have like. Okay, this is not rapid fire. Forget it. I'll say Rajesh, because he's a good all-rounder.
Awesome. Your favorite cubing moment?
Breaking the NR.
Who can beat you?
Aniket Das, obviously.
All right. Most underrated cuber?
Nothing's coming to mind right now. Oh no. I think. Wait. Ram Thakur. He's actually really crazy, that guy.
Your favorite puzzle?
My favorite puzzle is the Gyan Pyraminx, I think, right now.
Okay, awesome. That was it in terms of rapid fire. So, Naren, where do you see cubing as a sport, like maybe 5 years down the line or 10 years down the line?
So that's a question that I think the Red Bull competitions, I think they have like a big part in our future because Red Bull is like a huge company, right? And they're like a huge brand. So cubing behind them will definitely have bring cubing to a wider audience. I think probably a lot of cubers have seen and come into cubing because of that Red Bull competition that has like they have the live streams of the official events, and it's like a much more, I guess, accessible form of cubing because of the way the competitions are held. It's like the 1v1 format, which I guess makes it much more exciting. Like if a non-cuber was to come to a competition, it might be a bit confusing at first because you have like 20 people in solving stations just solving there, and like there's no real like actual like one-on-one competition going on, so you can't really see what's going on. But then to us cubers, we realize like we go to that WCA live or whatever and we can see, oh, I came first place, I came second place. But to people who just come in for the first time, they won't really get it. So I think that makes cubing much more accessible, and I think things like that might be the future. If we want cubing to be like a sport, like a recognized sport in the eyes of maybe like even some international like federations or something, we need to make it much more like competitive. Like if you think about it, many sports, whether that be like team or like individual, a lot of them have direct competition. Like you can like take the example of chess I had before, like a lot of the Olympic events, with like I guess the exception of running probably, and like swimming and things like that, where you're not competing against one person directly, but a lot of those events just have like one-on-one competitions. So I think cubing in that more like direct competition format is the way forward. I think WCA can also go forward like that, but they might not choose to do so, in which I think maybe the Red Bull competitions will pave the way for cubing in the future.
Definitely. And where do you see yourself in that picture?
So like 10 years, what will I be? I'll be like 25, 26, right? So I think that I'll definitely hopefully be cubing at that point. I don't think my life will get too busy to the point where I have to just quit cubing entirely. I hope to be cubing to some capacity at that point, cubing at some capacity at that point. But I feel like maybe I'll be doing it slightly less, just because at that old of an age, I feel like maybe the drive to break the newest NR won't be there as much. But I'll still definitely be doing it, and I think at that older age, like the friends you make will become much more important, because when the competitive aspect dies down a bit, you still have those friends with you that you develop through cubing, and those will be like long lasting connections that even if I'm like 23, 24, I might just still go to a competition, not even to compete very like competitively, just to meet my friends and have some time with them. So I think that'll be a big part of it. So I think I do see myself cubing at least at some capacity in 10 years or so.
Naren, before we wrap up, since you have a lot of interesting stories to tell, is there any interesting story that you want to share before we go?
Yeah, okay, so I think this one it's not really like funny per se, but it was still like a very interesting one. So about 5 years ago, there was Indian Nationals 2016, which was the third ever Indian Nationals, I believe. And that was in Delhi. And what happened was I was going to go there, but all of a sudden I felt very sick a few days before the competition. But I still decided to go, right? So I went there and I was like crazy. I had like a lot of fever and I actually was not feeling well at all. And at that time, my main event was 2x2, and I was averaging about 5 seconds. So I wasn't like in the area of getting any podiums or even making it to the final round. But at that point, cubing was just like still for experience, for getting better. And when I went to that competition, I was averaging around 5, like I mentioned. And the first round, I think I got like about a 5 average or something like that. But then in the second round, I actually got a 4 average. And in the final round, I got a 5.9 average, which is not good for me. But the interesting thing was I got a 2-second single. And I think that might have been my overall PB single at that time. And I was like I was going crazy because of that. Because the thing was, I actually performed better than I was expecting when I was sick. Because normally when I was sick, I was thinking, okay, I'm just going to perform terribly. But it's okay. But I still managed to do better. And I got a good average in the second round. And in the final round, even though the average wasn't that great, I actually managed to get a really good single. So that trip actually ended up kind of curing my sickness in a way, because like I was really kind of upset and kind of down because of that sickness. But my mood was boosted and I felt better when going back home, even though I didn't get any podium or anything. So yeah,
Definitely.
that was a good experience.
And I think you should take some random events. You'll not know what you'll get because you're randomly getting a PBs, you're randomly
Yeah.
breaking NRs. So I think just sign up for an event, even if you're not practicing it, and just go for it.
Yeah.
And we'll have you in the season 3 then. We'll discuss about that stories.
Yeah.
Naren, man, it's been so amazing to talk to you. Thank you so much for taking time and talking to us. And it's been a blast, and wish you all the best for your cubing and your life.
Yeah, you too. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I definitely think cubing has made me a lot sharper and quicker mentally. And it, like I said, it's taught me patience that, you've got to kind of trust the process, where you're putting in the hours, so you're going to get the results. So it's taught me that.